Bud Light.
All right, I'd like to go ahead and call the public hearing section of the Warrenton Board of Aldermen meeting for Tuesday, August 16, 2016 into session.
For the public hearing for the tax rates for property taxes, I would like to make part of the public record the public hearing notice that was published in the Warren County Record on August 4th, 2016. The new property valuations for 2016 received from the county clerk reflect no change in real estate valuations, a $98,420 decrease in personal property tax valuations, and new construction of $398,197. So the valuations result in a proposed new tax rate of 29.02 cents per $100 valuation for general revenue, which is an increase of 0.03 cents per $100 valuation. 17.18 cents per $100 valuation for Parks and Recreation, which is an increase of 0.02 cents per $100 valuation. And the total tax rate is 46.2 cents per $100 valuation. So the new rates will result in approximately $303,000 in revenues for the general fund and $178,000 in revenues for the park fund, which totals $481,000.
So what's the total increase in revenue?
The increase from last year's budget was $463,000, so that would be.
And so part of that's due to the increase in the rate, and part of it's due to the increase in the evaluation.
Well, the real estate didn't have an increase in valuation, and the personal property went down. So, it's
but overall, it had an increase, right? 2016,
yes,
100 million versus 99
right.
million.
It'll be 0.0005 per 100.
So what happens if we were to keep the rate the same?
I don't know. Is that possible with the computation, Terry?
The computations really come from the state, and we just confirm what those numbers are. So I honestly don't know what the answer is.
I mean, my only thought is, the taxpayers just stepped to the plate with a penny for our project, and this is not really material to the budget. So my thought would be if there was a way we could hold the rate for the property tax owners, because they did step to the plate for us. And I never discussed this with you before, so I don't know if that's even possible, but.
I don't know the answer to that, honestly. We'd have to do some research.
You set the rate. Now, what happens is you get the numbers from the county, and then the formula is to figure out where to receive the same income you did last year, or around the same, or what it is. But you guys set the rate. They just give you guidance on the rate. That's why there's a public hearing. That's why there's an ordinance for the new rate.
So if the appraised values are higher, it means the rate is lower, right? But the net dollar is the same?
Yes, if your values go up, your rate goes down, because the goal is to keep it at the same level. The only thing, as I understand it, that really affects an increase is the new construction or increased valuations. Like the new construction would not have been taxed last year. So those would be new dollars on top of what your last year's dollars were.
But what am I, or is the individual taxpayer in the city of Warrenton who owns a home, personal property, are they going to see an increase or a decrease?
They're going to see an increase because the rate went up in total, correct, Gab?
Mm-hmm.
Because of the rate increase, not necessarily the.
Because the valuations for personal property went down.
But the rate went up.
Everybody else feels about it. That was just one of my thoughts, is the taxpayers stepped to the plate with a significant commitment to the city, and this is not a material item into the budget, and it would be a positive gesture if we could hold the rate the same.
I'm with you on that.
I don't know if we can do that. I don't know what anybody else thinks, but.
I agree.
What I'm saying is, so we back off on the rate, but basically the assessed evaluation would stay the same?
Yeah, we don't have the ability to affect the assessed valuations.
Right, that's
So
fixed.
the only thing we can affect is whatever the rate is $100 of valuation.
But I think one of the things too, we have to set it by September 1 too. So if you wanted to set it, it has to be in the state, is that right, Gavin? We have to have it set, I think it's
By
by
September 1st,
By
yes.
September 1st, you have to have the ordinance establishing your tax rate, or you do not get tax, property tax.
Is he a reasonable tax? But it's not set.
Well, there's some argument about whether you have to go to the voters or not, but, you know, that's more of kind of an unknown, but conservatively, you have to do it. But you could set it at the same rate you set it last year. The problem is we don't have an ordinance prepared for setting it at a different rate than probably what the formula is that we receive from the state. Because the state has a website where you, is that where you did it, Gab, where they plug it in or they give you the formulas to calculate it? And they say, this is what your, you know, if, and I assume it's, if this is what you had in income last year, you set the rate and it's within the bound, you have some adjustment period to the rate. You can go up a little bit for cost of living, or you can go up a little, there's some adjustment period that doesn't violate Hancock, and obviously you can go down.
So we couldn't get it done by September anyway. An ordinance, in other words, it would require an ordinance.
So it would require an ordinance, it has to be set by ordinance, so it would require a special meeting for you guys to set it.
We probably couldn't get it done.
I would imagine it's probably a somewhat negligible difference in the rate, but I think that's a point well taken. It's something we could look at next year. You know, because we typically don't get the numbers from the county, and usually we do this at this meeting because we've been waiting on the county, which has been waiting on the state for the numbers for us to do our calculation.
I agree with Gary that it's something we definitely need to look at in the future, since, especially since the voters stepped up to the plate on the sales tax.
Absolutely.
But you guys set the property tax rate. Some cities have zeroed their property tax rate for municipalities. Now that I think have regretted doing that, because once you zero it, where do you go from there? But that is something that has, you know, you guys have the ability to set the rate and lower it to what you want it to be.
Well, tonight, can we, if the council wants to, could we approve the ordinance subject to the change to the old rate?
Yeah.
I mean, just because a piece of paper isn't drafted, doesn't mean we can't
Sure.
pass an
Sure.
ordinance subject to
You can make
something else.
Yeah.
You've done that before.
You can make the motion to approve it. The only thing I would say is you would want to set the specific rates, so that then we can, that way it was approved at new specific rates or the prior rates or whatever you guys decide to do.
Gabrielle has those rates in hand, correct, Gab? So you could approve the ordinance subject to changing the rate for the real and personal property for the general fund to whatever that rate was last year, and the rate for public parks to whatever it was last year, and then we just make a new ordinance that the mayor signs.
I mean, I don't know if you
I
guys
agree
agree.
with you. I don't think we should have, we shouldn't have a tax increase. If we can keep the rates the same and get it done by September 1st, I guess we just need guidance on how to get that done.
Well, I think,
We're all in
Gary,
agreement.
I mean, Alderman Ock, you're right. You could just take those numbers and make the motion with those numbers plugged in to whatever it was last year to keep the rate, hold the line, keep the rate the same, and that's perfectly fine.
That's what we need to do.
I agree.
I agree.
Melody, is that going to be okay?
I don't know how you want to word it.
Well, Melody, is that going to change? Are you going to be able to make that change when they're reading the bill? 'Cause it'll be-
Well, it's not in the words, it's not in there, it's just in the body of it.
All right.
So you curved it.
Pretty satisfactory where you're at.
Yeah, I mean, if the council wants to do that, that's just my thought.
Well, I think we should keep the rates the same as last year.
Same,
Yes.
sorry. You have the rates from last year.
General was .2899, and Parks and Recreation was .1716. .1716.
General is what, 289?
2899.
I mean, it's insignificant, but on the other hand, I think it's, my thinking is a gesture of goodwill towards citizens.
I agree. So we need to put this in a motion to keep the tax rate the same as last year.
I'm trying to see where on the agenda
We have to
it
do
is.
it on the
regular agenda. This is-
Yeah, I don't have
The
one.
ordinance at the bottom.
Yeah.
The ordinance of the-
So the motion, Alderman Ock, would just be a motion to approve, subject to that change with those two numbers, and then that's perfectly fine.
Okay. So when we get to that part of the meeting, then we can make a motion.
Any other questions? Any other questions?
No.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, Cam.
Next public hearing be section 45, sign regulations, 89-8. Jack.
Good evening, Mayor and Board. This is a proposed text amendment to Section 425 sign regulations, ADM-82, specifically revising Section 425.145 signs after condemnation. Motion for approval passed 8-0 with one absent and one vacancy. The August 4th, 2016 planning and zoning commission meeting with no additional conditions. I'd like to ask to make part of the public hearing record the municipal code by reference, a planning and zoning report, and the public hearing notice.
So, while you're up here, so this is the ordinance that basically allows the sign, the business behind Kroger's to exist where it is.
You want to address that, Chris, since you
Yes.
drafted this?
Okay. And this is the only sign in the community we currently have that fall under this ordinance?
I didn't know we had a sign previously before the issue came up, Alderman Ock, but I think this addresses the issue that was the board's concern to say, if there was a sign that was legal prior to condemnation, that is now within a right-of-way, or not in a right-of-way, within a setback, but is not a safety concern, that as long as that property and that sign's maintained, they'd be able to continue to use that sign and continue to use it. So that's what we did. So if that's Kroger, and it would obviously affect the small building store, I forget what it's
Yeah,
called.
I mean, it's the sign, the building behind the business.
Yeah.
So-
It's the whole corridor, though, right?
It's just signs that were affected by condemnation that were made by the condemnation that were put into a setback, not in a right of way, but in a setback of the city.
So anything new, that comes with- anything new would come into the setback is not, that's not,
Anything new, they have to meet the setback requirements.
And if there happens to be one on a further condemnation in the future, the safety issue still is part of the ordinance, so it has to be reviewed and looked at to make sure, even though it may be sitting where it's allowed, it still may be a safety issue which would prohibit that from being taken place. So we're not getting rid of the safety issue.
Absolutely, yeah, and that's in there.
Any questions or comments?
Thank you, sir.
thanks, Jack.
All right, any questions or comments from the public on either of the two issues? Not seeing any, we'll move on. I'd like to go ahead and bring the public hearing section of the Warrenton Board of Aldermen meeting to a close and open the regular session for Warrenton Board of Aldermen meeting for Tuesday, August 16, 2016. And if you would please rise and join us for the pledge of allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Moving on to the consent agenda.
First item is the regular meeting minutes from August 16, 2016. The AED bid awarded to AED Superstore in the amount of $7,125. The low bid, the budget amount was $9,800. And the rock bid was awarded to Bobby Holscher Trucking, the best bid.
All right, I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda items.
So moved.
Second. Motion made by Alderman Shelby, seconded by Alderman Miller. Your roll call vote, please.
Alderman Miller,
Yes.
Alderman Schultz,
Yes.
Alderman Shell Harvey,
Yes.
Alderperson Casterly is absent, Alderman Ock,
Yes.
Alderman Deloy.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0 with one absent. All right. Moving on to hearing from the public. We ask that if you come forward to present any items you need to present, that we keep you to a 5-minute maximum. You come to the podium and state who you are and what your case is, please. Anybody who's got?
I'd like to address the board on this.
Come on. You would just state your name and
I've discussed this with my alderman already. My name is William Riggs. I live at 1002 Roy Avenue. On that corner, there's a 90-degree turn, and I guess from 7 to 8 in the morning, and from whatever time elementary school gets out and then high school gets out, that is Roy is an Indianapolis 500. I am proposing to put a stop sign on that corner if it is all any way feasible to do. You need to do something to stop them, slow them people down.
put on the corner of Roy and Warrenton.
Pinckney? Roy and Pinckney, or where do you?
I live, you come, I'm a block up from Pinckney. I guess however many houses, 12 houses, where it makes the first 9-degree
So
turn.
more like Warren and Roy, is that what you're talking about?
Well, Warren and Roy is just down two blocks from the Pinckney.
Right.
You go up, and I guess there's the 500 block and the 400 block of Roy, and it turns into Volschel.
Right.
And I'm sure that they have the same problem up there on them other two corners. When kids go into high school in the morning, they don't want to go through Truesdale, and and the mamas and the daddies are trying to get their kids to the elementary school so they can get to work.
Right.
And one of these days, there's gonna be a wreck right in my front yard for them people head-on collision off of that corner, because everybody coming south cuts that corner, and if people are not watching what they're doing, they're gonna be a head-on there. The ones that know what's going on, as soon as they clear that house, they see if anything's coming, they just stop anyway, let them come on around that corner like a bat out of hell. Yep. That's really what I had talked with him. Somebody said that you couldn't put it there. And somebody said, well, maybe you could have the policeman have it where it's turnable and where it's working at a certain time, and then the rest of the time it's not. Most of the other time, there's not a lot of speeders. I'm not saying there's not, because it seemed like they seem to take the liberty of going as fast as they choose to get down to Pinckney. I had a discussion at the meeting we had up here with the mayor, that special meeting about the bond issue, and it's the same situation on his street on Warren. But we need to figure some way of slowing the people down. They see that 20 miles an hour, they don't have to drive it. Even some of my neighbors drive 40 and everything. They just think that's what they can do.
We asked the chief of police, you got,
Yeah,
you're aware of
give me one
I was
second.
aware of the problem.
Give me 1 second before you answer it. Have you noticed increased law enforcement in the area? Because I know I have. I sat out there, looked in the morning, and I know after discussing with chief and some of the SROs, we've had at least twice as many law enforcement driving through the area as of late.
I really haven't checked, Mayor, since school started back up.
I remember after that conversation, I had spoken with both of them, and I had noticed that. I know that, because I stood out there in the morning and saw at least, I think, 3 patrol vehicles go by. And they weren't just, they were circling, it was multiple times.
It
so.
seems like on the first day of school, everybody was driving a little more sane than
Yes.
normal.
I agree. As the year goes on, it seems like it gets
But,
worse.
Myself, since my dog died on the 1st of June, I don't get up early anymore.
I understand.
Sorry.
No,
But,
I just wanted to let you know we did after that conversation. And I appreciate Chief doing that and having increased in the area.
There is a utility right-of-way there, and 5 foot of it is on the edge of my property, and then on the other side, you can just run that, where that fence line runs down through there and it stops, and then that's probably where if you put one, you'd put it right on the edge of that utility easement. And I guess the fairest place to put the other one is right on the property line on the two properties on the west side of the road. But I'm just thinking we need to do something to slow. I don't think we want to put speed bumps or anything like that.
Well, I can tell you, in my resolve, I'd like for other people to answer, but go ahead.
Well, typically when these issues come up, we've kind of assigned it to the police chief to take a look at it and then come back with a recommendation at the following meeting. So I'm not sure how up to speed you are on this, or if you looked at it and have a recommendation.
Well, I mean, I think I'd rather try to do some directed patrol there. That's our usual tack for handling speeders like that. Just do some increased speed enforcement. That generally gets the situation handled. I mean, we'll look at putting a sign there, but I think that is more of a curve than it is really an intersection. So I don't know that a stop sign is appropriate there. But let's try doing some directed patrol there first, and I'll come back to you next time and see what we do.
Or how about just an offer from me, keeping up with you, and we'll see if it is adjusting. And if it's correcting itself, let's give it 2 weeks to a month, and then I'll make contact with you personally, and we'll see where we're at and what's going on.
Yeah, I know it's not an intersection, but you have, and I've talked to some of the officers in town, a lot of the people in Warrenton like to cut the inside of the corner. And on the corner there by the school, I've about been hit 4 times right there. People coming around, but they just come right over the other lane, look at you like, I've done this for 100 years, I want to keep doing it. And,
Actually,
Well,
I'll agree with you on that, they do. But we'll just keep up on a personal level and see what we can't do to resolve it.
talked to the young officer outside, I said, you can come and sit in my driveway.
Right.
And you serve them coffee, right?
But if that doesn't resolve it, then we'll look into what else we can do. But I would like to give the chief a little bit longer of a chance to see if he can correct it.
And, I'm not opposed to putting signs in roadways that aren't necessarily on corners. Bill Moore, which is real close to where the University of Missouri St. Louis is, in order to keep traffic down, the college students coming through Del Lower, would place stop signs periodically along the road for the simple purpose of slowing it down. So I don't know if there's anything magical has to be in the corner, but that's why we want you to take a look at it.
Sure. I just wanted to make that.
No, I agree. But
When I moved there, I guess I've been there 7 years, and my neighbor across the street said, you're gonna have to move your mailbox to the other side of your driveway.
otherwise,
It's been knocked down that many times. And people come up there, what's gonna happen worse than anything is they're on their cell phones. They're gonna take the old gal around the corner, they're gonna take her mailbox out and go the other way.
right.
It's just a corner, just like I know how to drive at Le Mans, I'm gonna cut the corner and just shift gears and away I go.
No, I
You gotta
understand.
see how fast they can get down to Pinckney.
Well, you probably see my ugly mug in about 2 weeks knocking on the door, so.
Okay, I'll be there.
You got it.
Thanks
There
for
you
your
go.
input. Thank you.
All right, anyone else?
Good evening. My name is Juan Regoza. I'm actually here to discuss a new ordinance that just passed in regards to mobile homes, I believe.
Yes, you're actually on the agenda, so when we come to that, I can call you
Okay,
back.
that's fine. I don't know.
No, you're fine, you're fine. I appreciate it.
No, thank you.
Anyone else?
I don't know where my part might be. They asked me to come to the meeting because we're getting a liquor license for the Main Street, but we're not the one that's on the American Legion post, we're St. John's Lutheran Church. So it might not be on this one.
Yeah, I'm not seeing you on this one, is there?
I actually have not seen that
You haven't seen
application come
it?
through
Okay,
yet.
so it may still take a week or something, and there's another meeting, 2 weeks from now?
Yeah.
Sorry. Sure.
Can we ask who you represent?
St. John's Lutheran Church.
Oh, okay.
I have all the paperwork that they filed, but they're waiting for a no tax due from the state of Missouri. So I think it's finished.
Duly noted, thank you. Is there anybody else?
I don't know where I'm at, but I'm looking for approval for a 5K, so I don't know if I'm on
That's,
there.
I believe it's on here.
Okay, great. I can't see all the way down, so I wasn't sure.
1 second.
Number 12.
Yep.
Oh, that's why I
Number 12.
couldn't see it. Okay.
Yeah, that's-
Sorry, I
Look,
figured
look
it.
those down, but you- that's all right. All right, anyone else? All right, well, with that, I'll go ahead and bring the hearing from the public to a close and hear from the Board of Aldermen. Any comments?
Yes, first off, I'd like to thank, I know the last meeting I brought up about the weeds along the railroad overpass between the bank and Ashland Avenue, and I know a day or two later, I saw the city crew out there working to get those taken care of. So I want to thank the crew, thank whoever was responsible for that, for getting that done, because it looks 1,000% better. And I've had a couple comments from the public that they were glad that we got that done, because it does look better. Also, Alderperson Casserly isn't here tonight, but she had a comment from somebody in the public about what we're trying to do with cleaning up some of the rental properties and that, when they take off and just throw their stuff out in the yard and everything. And I also had a couple of comments from the public on that they think it's good, and it's time that we need to do something about that. So, and I know, not just picking, I know Gary Ock, Alderman Ock, said his ward was being picked on for it. I think there were some others out there, and I did compliment one of the landowners, or one of them that has, she approached me, she said, well, they're not gonna hit us too hard, are they? But I said, she was one that I would have used an example of getting it properly done, because she had a tenant that when they left, they just started putting stuff out on the front porch and pulled out and everything, but she at least got a 20-yard dumpster out there and cleaned everything up. And she said, so there are some of the landowners or the property owners that are trying to do right by it. And so we can't really condemn them all, but I think it's one of the things, I think somebody made a comment one time that all the residents of Warrenton need, be it whether you're the homeowner or a renter, take some pride and take some responsibility in trying to keep your places cleaned up. And I think that's all we can ask. We can look at ordinances and different ways to try to enforce things, but if everybody would just take some pride in where they live and try to keep it cleaned up, I think it would be a big step in the right direction. So, but again, thanks to the people that are trying to do it the right way, and again, thanks to the people that say they appreciate what the city's trying to do.
Well, I had similar comments. I did have one comment from a lady who was a little upset because she said, we take pride in the ward, in their homes, and that's certainly true for a lot of people, but that doesn't mean that there's not cases where there are issues, and those are the issues that we're trying to address. You know, we recently, or about a year ago, we did present an award to somebody who goes out of their way to make sure the neighborhood's clean, and certainly the city is always open to recognizing other people who are making the efforts on their property. You know, and I did get similar calls. I mean, I got calls from everywhere, from people being upset, from people parking in their front yards. You know, 3 or 4 vehicles in their front yards. It doesn't happen everywhere in town, but it happens everywhere in town. Something that you won't see in St. Louis community at all, St. Louis metropolitan area at all. You got complaints about people who are upset about clutter in yards, clutter in their front yards. So I mean, so this is an issue I think that a lot of people have emotions on and feelings. I know it's a very hard topic to wrestle with because you want to enforce things, but you also don't want to create a situation where it's a burden on the property owner. So I think there has to be some kind of reasonable standards and reasonable enforcement.
Yeah, comments? Comments?
No comments. You said it all.
All right, I appreciate it. All right. I'm going to keep this short and sweet. On a lighter note, anybody who's got a good pitching arm or wants to come support Relay for Life, I believe myself and Alderman Schultz will be in a dunking booth on August 27th. Well, that's right, Chief, because I'm saving my money for that. And we do all appreciate you come out and participate. It's for a good cause, and I think it'll be good. So
August 27th.
love to see you guys out there. You better bring a fistful of dollars.
I am. I'll be there.
And I think we should be able to stand a little closer to the
Yeah.
tank.
The seniors.
The seniors.
Seniors,
We got a senior.
show your AARP card. We'll get you close.
Here, let me-
That's right. All right. Introduction to new employees. I think I'm going to let each one of you department heads introduce your employees.
No problem. Mayor, Board, it's my pleasure to introduce our new full-time animal control officer, Elizabeth Fry. She did a great job.
Welcome aboard.
Yes.
And right next to her, our new police officer, Jim Buckley.
Nice to meet you.
Welcome, Jim.
And I'd like to introduce Zachary Miller, new grounds and maintenance employee.
Nice to meet you.
Great, nice to meet
Welcome,
you.
Zach.
All right, thanks, guys. All right. Next on the agenda would be the certification of election results. I believe they were all ran, so I guess we'll just entertain a motion to approve the certification of election results for Proposition O and P for the August 2nd, 2016 election.
So moved.
Wow, both of you do simultaneously. I'm going to go ahead and put Alderman off first, and then Alderman, seconded by Alderman Miller. Roll call vote, please.
Alderman Schultz?
Yes.
Alderman Shell Harvey?
Yes.
Alderman Ock?
Yes.
Alderman Deloy,
Yes.
Alderman Miller?
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0 with 1 absent. All right, next would be the approval of a temporary liquor by the drink picnic license for the American Legion Post 122 for Fall Fest 2016. Anybody here to comment on that? All right, well, any questions?
Well, it's good to see organizations stepping to the plate, and hope they have a great experience, and we have a good turnout, so it can be very profitable for them for the evening. That's really exciting to see that participation.
I'll second that, because last year I know we had a little bit of an issue there towards the end, being able to have that many, and it's kind of nice to see them coming in. So I'll go ahead and entertain a motion to approve the temporary liquor by the drink picnic license for American Legion Post 122 for the Fall Fest 2016.
So moved.
Motion made by Alderman Shell Harvey, seconded by Alderman Schultz. Roll call vote, please.
Alderman Shell Harvey?
Yes.
Alderman Ock?
Yes.
Alderman Deloy,
Yes.
Alderman Miller?
Yes.
Alderman Schultz?
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0, 1 absent. All right. Next item on the agenda would be the approval for the exemption for time constraint for loud noise at the fairgrounds on August 27, 2016. Any questions or comments?
Is this in conjunction with an event?
No.
Oh, no, this, it's by itself.
Yes.
Okay.
Any other questions? No.
Yeah,
If you have questions, I want to have them come up.
Okay, there is music, that's the main thing.
Yeah, that's all it is.
Paul, why don't you come up to the podium real quick, just because people on, I appreciate it.
No, that's no problem. No, it's just to have some music in the beer garden for a small gathering of people that evening.
Because mostly the truck thing will be during the day.
Right, 10 to 4. Like I said, something totally separate.
That was all I had, so I didn't.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. And that was Paul Owenby, by the way, for board president. Any other questions or comments?
Make a motion, we allow the approval, for the approval of exemption for time restraint for loud noise at the fairgrounds on the event on August 27th, 2016.
I'll second that.
Motion made by Alderman Shelby, seconded by Alderman Schultz. Roll call vote.
Alderman Ock?
Yes.
Alderman Deloy,
Yes.
Alderman Miller?
Yes.
Alderman Schultz?
Yes.
Alderman Shell Harvey?
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0 with 1 absent. All right. Next item would be the 5K fundraiser, raiser for running for the flame. Just come up and announce who you are. And
Hi, I'm Cindy Veninga, and I'm here on behalf of, well, not really on behalf of them, but I go to Faith Christian Family Church, and we're going to do a fundraiser for a women's conference, and 10% of our raising will be going to Backstoppers. I met with Chief Haudershell on July 25th about routes to make sure we weren't going to shut down any roads and all of that kind of formal things. And then I also met with Katrina, who is the assistant manager at the movie theater, to make sure that that was a place that we could park, use the restrooms, not interrupt any businesses, and she approved that, and she will be there that morning as well. I anticipate maybe 30 to 50, depending. The Backstopper said they would also list the event on their page, so I'm not really sure if that will increase the number of people. But I would like it to be a run, walk, stroll. That way families can be involved as well, especially families of Backstoppers or first responder families that would like to attend. And it is set for September 10th with the approval. 8 o'clock in the morning is when it would start, and then obviously it would end when everyone was finished. There's a 5K part, but there is also a shorter route in case somebody does not want to take the 5K or it happens to be warmer than today. So that is what I'm asking for. I gave a Google map.
So-
I'm sure everybody, okay.
that's good. Thank you.
I just wanted to know if the mayor was going to run in this or not.
Well, I can assure you, the way my clothes are fitting, I should be running it.
I mean, Scott, you could run in this too, right?
That wasn't an answer, though.
Yeah, non-committal.
I think I would do the walk, or I would even be not opposed to Scott pushing me in a stroller.
Because I was looking at this, I mean, you're having people go uphill right away, so they have
It is
to, they have to be
it is
committed.
uphill right
It's a
away.
challenge, yeah. They have to be
We
committed
talked
to
about
this
that.
question, yeah.
So if they're too tired by the time it comes to the actual 5K part, they can cut down a road prior to that, so.
I don't have any issues with this. I'm assuming the police will make sure that all the participants are protected, like we normally do when we have bikes going through town and other things. So make a motion that we approve the.
Hang on one second.
Hang on. Can I have one question? Since we brought up this back and forth here, Cindy, how do you, what's the biggest part of the fundraising of it? How do you raise money for it? Is it per entry or what?
Right, so it will be, I'm making an event page with this approval. I waited to make the event page until I was making sure all of my Ts were crossed and my Is were dotted. But it will be 25 online, and then they will pay 30 at the time of registration if they come the day of the race. So it's based on that. That's how the fundraising will be, per person, yes.
So it's not, in other words, it's not so much a mile that they run or anything like
No,
that? Okay.
it's a flat fee.
I was going to challenge them to something like that, maybe.
Well, I can certainly support it as long as I don't have to run it.
No, you
I'm
do
right
not.
with you.
It's all volunteer.
Okay.
What do you mean you're right with him?
Hey, if I don't have to
Fill
run.
that challenge
I
out
mean,
quick.
I mean, if I had to run, if I was gonna do this, they'd have to guarantee an ambulance would follow me. That's for sure.
You see me run or something mean behind me.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, Gary, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to
Yeah.
interrupt.
I would make a motion, we accept the application as requested by the city for the, I guess you would call it the race or the run.
I'll second that.
Motion made by Alderman Ock, seconded by Alderman Miller for the approval of the 5K fundraiser for Running for the Flame. Roll call vote, please.
Alderman Deloy,
Yes.
Alderman Miller,
Yes.
Alderman Schultz,
Yes.
Alderman Shell Harvey,
Yes.
Alderman Ock.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you,
One absent.
gentlemen. Thank you for
Thank
your
you.
time.
Appreciate it.
Hope it's very successful.
Thank you.
All right. Next item would be the approval of the 2001 mobile home moved within the city limits. If you please come forward and once again, just go ahead and state who you are for us, and then we'll open the discussion.
Good evening again. My name is Juan Rigoza. This is in regards to the new ordinance of no mobile homes older than 2006, I believe is the ordinance. Hoping that we can make an exception to the mobile home that we plan on moving to the city limits. It's a 2001 mobile home. I believe it's in great conditions, to be honest with you. It's got brand new roof, siding, interior, no holes, nothing like that. The ordinance, I believe, was made into effect June 20-something, if I'm not mistaken. Person that the mobile home was bought from purchased another property and was dealing with new floor in the city in order to be approved to move into that specific location, and then push the move of the mobile home back, in effect affecting us with the actual ordinance itself. I'm not sure if you guys have any of the pictures that I did send over. Okay. Like I said, I'm hoping that an exception can be made based on the condition of the mobile home. I understand it's not a 2006, but it definitely is in very good conditions. Now I know the skirting itself has fallen from where it's currently sitting, but that's going to be replaced brand new once it's set in the new, if it's set in within city limits. It would have to be replaced anyways because we don't know if it's going to be lower or higher.
So is the mobile home currently in the city limits?
No, it's not. It's actually in High Hill,
And where are we gonna place it?
Paddock Fields. Yes. Like I said, we had everything already set up with Paddock Fields. We paid everything for them to actually move it, but like I said, with the owner of the mobile home not being able to move into the residence, pushed us back. And when we were ready to finally move, we went back to Paddock and they said, well, City of Warrenton just passed a new ordinance where we can't move this. So stuck here where we've already paid for the mobile home, it's still sitting in High Hill. And that's why I want to see if it can be possibly moved here into city limits.
Well, technically, we don't have an ordinance prohibiting, we have a moratorium on trailers coming in to allow the zoning board and the council to come up with some kind of recommendation. Can you give us an update as to where we are in that process?
So basically, I attended the last planning and zoning meeting, and what they discussed is they want to see, and they would like to see, some type of basic inspection and permitting process for homes that are brought in, similar to the occupancy inspection for a stick-built home that's brand new coming into the city. And in fact, there was a third-party independent inspector that came in and said, basically was like, the mobile homes people move into were squalor and people shouldn't be allowed to move into them, and, was very supportive of this concept. And the Planning and Zoning Commission really liked the idea of doing it on a case-by-case basis and the quality of that individual mobile home instead of kind of just the random 10-year requirement, which is similar to what neighboring cities have.
See, I think this is perfect for what we want to do. He's brought the pictures, he's brought everything, and I agree, that's what we need to do, not necessarily do blank check thing and saying, you know, a certain number of years, because there are some that are older, 15, 16 years old and that probably are in better shape than some of them that you have out there that are only 10 years old maybe. So I think maybe that's what Juan has done.
And I personally-
He's brought in the, you know, he brought in the pictures, and if we do the inspection, if the electric, plumbing and all that stuff meets similar specs to what we do, you know, a stick home, I think that's what we've accomplished what we want to do.
And I personally wouldn't mind, I mean, I'm all for that. If there needs to be an inspection, I can definitely pay for the inspection, that's no problem at all.
So where we stand right now, Chris, is we're just having a moratorium, there's no ordinance.
We have to create.
The inspection process is?
We have to create two things. We have to create a code, some type of inspection code that my thought process is it's relatively simple. We can build on it on an as-needed basis for things we do, because there are not really any cities that inspect new mobile homes. So we have to build a code, you know, kind of like a property maintenance code or a international building code, with what we can inspect and what we actually can get into the house and look at it and make sure that it's safe and it's appropriate living conditions. And then we have to, you know, basically create the permit process. But, you know, the moratorium ordinance created this mechanism so they could come in front of you on a case-by-case request and say, hey, I've got a mobile home that's older than 10 years, and allow you guys to make a decision if you want to let this specific mobile home in. So we kind of had this relief valve, so exactly what you said, Alderman Joe Harvey, when this situation arises, well, we try to figure this out to get it resolved.
So without an ordinance, how can we send Jack or somebody out to inspect? Because he's gonna ask for what kind of guidelines am I looking at? I'm assuming you're gonna ask for that question. Or how do we reasonably do it without an ordinance in place?
Well, I think that it becomes voluntary, and I think you guys have the ability to delegate to delegate and say, hey, Jack, we want you to check this out. I understand there's no criteria, but I'm sure it looks like, you know, you've replaced flooring, it's got a new roof and new siding.
Right, new siding, new
if there's
roof.
a safety issue that is the barrier between moving the trailer in and out, it's going to be voluntary, but ultimately, he's got to make you guys happy for you guys to allow the trailer to come in, because right now it doesn't come in. So if you delegate that to Jack and say, Jack, we want to report on the condition of the trailer, and, you know, brings it back, or, you know, Jack says, I think the trailer's fine, you could approve it, you know, subject to Jack's, you know, recommendation, or subject to Jack's, you know, approval.
Inspection and approval.
Yeah, inspection and approval, and I understand, I mean, we're not gonna, you know, we have certain limitations with the trailer, because one of the things Jack said to me was, I'm not gonna open a wall up, but you can check and see if the electricity has been modified. There's somewhat of a problem here, because, you know, one of the things Jack said to me, I can't check to see if the plumbing's good unless it's hooked up to water or hooked up to sewer.
There's water at the
Oh,
property
okay.
now, there's water, actually, today electric was shut off, but there's water, there was electric there, everything was still there.
You guys could delegate
See,
that.
and that's the main thing. My issue is, you know, like, especially the electrical.
That's the main
In the
thing.
event of a fire, you know, we don't want to.
And it's not gonna be like a new home where it's gonna be, they're gonna get the permit, tell you where they're running the wires, you're gonna go see where they put it in before they close it up, and they close it up. But my thought is, you're gonna get to look and see what the receptacles look like, what the box looks like, see if you can see any modified work, and Jack, jump in if there's anything you wanna add to it.
No, I agree. We can look at the panel.
Look at the panel, that's why I
That's
kind of
right,
said the
yeah, that's
box,
the
the
main
panel, and see very basic safety issues, because the idea being, in planning and zoning, and as this board, we want to offer affordable housing, this is affordable housing, but the problem is, you know, we realize people will live in anything, you know, if that's what is the roof over their head, but we want to have a basic standard that's quality affordable housing as well.
Well, that's what we had intended on when we
Right.
first heard about the 10-year, and none of us know if it's 10 years or 12 years or 8 years, but the idea of Jack inspecting it, to say, yes, this one does have floors in it, the electric's fine, it's all in good working order, I don't know that we need an ordinance, if we've already accomplished what.
Well, we'll need to have something in place, and working with Jack's department, they're gonna want something black and white that is a standard that can apply equally to everybody, that's not just kind of pulling out of the air, and I think that's the best city practice. So we're gonna have to put those standards together, we're gonna have to put that stuff together. I actually think this is a really good kind of test case opportunity to kind of figure out, what do you want when there's a 10-year or older mobile home coming in? What do you guys wanna look at initially? Is it electrical, water, sewer, holes in the wall, holes in the roof, infestation is one of our biggest issues, bugs, rodents or whatnot. Look at those things as just kind of a basic cursory, because understand, once this comes in, we're not gonna do a reoccupancy inspection. So if they come in and it becomes squalor and somebody else moves in, we don't have reoccupancy inspections, it's just a new structure coming in the city to be inspected.
So how do we inspect it? Do we inspect it in Montgomery County, or does he have to move it here to inspect it?
Well, and that's a great question. I mean, I think that's kind of, it probably, if you guys want to allow them to move it in and inspect it within the city limits, then you have a trailer in that may not be up to par. I mean, eventually, I think it's like what Alderman Ock said, was tidal water and sewer where they can't get the connection to it. I mean, it probably would make the most sense, just thinking out loud, to go to the place and look at it, but I don't know if you guys want to do that, and I don't know time-wise if that makes sense.
Whether it's me or even a third-party inspecting agency.
What's that, Jack?
Whether it's a third-party home inspection agency, since it's out of town, but it's basically set up where they could come look at it and fill out a report that says they look at it on this date, check off everything that they see is fine. If they have any areas of concern, they can put a comment down, and then we could bring that back. Either I can look at it, and if everything checks, say good with your approval, or actually, get it back to you guys for approval. But since this one's out of town, that might be the easiest. If not, High Hill's not that far away. If you guys tell me you want me to run up there.
Yeah, I'm not too concerned about how you get the inspection done. I think you guys can figure it out without us micromanaging it. But I think the question to me is, I'm sure there's a time issue on this for you because you probably want to move in. It's going to be your own home, right?
Correct.
Okay.
And I would want to do it as soon as possible.
So I would think that if we want to approve this, it would be subject to Jack's inspection. And that way, if Jack says it's okay, then we go. We don't have to have another meeting. I would hate to have the thing come back to us. That's going to delay you 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And
even after he says, you know what, it needs this and needs that, I have no issues addressing it.
Right.
Whatever it needs to have to meet the guidelines, it's going to get done. I actually we sell the 5-gallon laundry detergent. So we bought that building on concrete over in front of Warrenton Tire Muffler.
Oh, okay.
If you guys notice how that building was prior to us buying it, it was in terrible shape. And right now, if you go there, it's a brand new building. Everything in there is being remodeled to brand new condition.
Excellent. Any other questions or comments?
Well, I'll make a motion that we allow the mobile home to be moved into the community subject to Jack's inspection and approval.
I'll second.
And just for clarification,
Yeah,
you're
that's-
giving him permission to bring it to Paddock, and I'm looking at it at Paddock, or
No,
do you
you're
want me to
looking
run
at
up to
it
High
before it
Hill?
comes into town.
But let's
Okay.
yeah.
That's, I just wanted to make 100% sure, so I wasn't doing something that wasn't what you guys
And
were
then
wanting.
And what about a third-party inspection?
Well,
like what it said?
I'm comfortable leaving that up to Jack to do what seems to work best. I don't know if there's an inspector at High Hill, or there's a third party, or he wants to do it. That's an operational thing. I think Jack and Terry can figure. Jack and Terry can figure it out.
I'm trying to kind of add that wording to the motion.
Sounds like a road trip, Jack.
Yeah. Okay, so let me add to the motion that the trailer not be allowed to be moved into the community until it is inspected and approved. So I'll add that to the motion.
Okay. And still staying with that
Yeah,
seconding
I'll
it? Okay.
second.
Motion is made by Alderman Ock, seconded by Alderman Shell Harvey. If I could have a roll call vote, please.
Alderman Miller?
Yes.
Alderman Schultz?
Yes.
Alderman Shell Harvey?
Yes.
Alderman Ock?
Yes.
Alderman Deloy.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0 with 1 absent.
Thank you very much.
All right. Next item on the agenda, I believe, I'm going to go by the screen, would be the discussion topic on property maintenance code violations.
Well, I think we struck a nerve by bringing this up. Like I said, I know Mike's got people who's responded, I had people respond, and I think, the specific property I was talking about last time, when I drove by this morning, the same sofa and the same mattress that had been laying out there for more than 6 weeks was still there. Now miraculously, tonight, when I went to city council and drove by, it was gone, so maybe we accomplished something, but I think, I think the point is, there has to be some mechanism that would protect property owners from having that happen, because in this case, the property owner on the south side, they've lived in that home for years and years, they're very conscientious about their home. Property on the north side is a rental property, but the person who owns the rental property just takes immaculate care. So you have two very conscientious building, one an owner, one a renter, and in the middle you've got this problem. And so I think that's what, I want to try to address. There's a lot of things we can try to address. Like I said, parking came up, yard clutter came up, you name it. But this seems like it's something we need to kind of bite off in small chunks. As if you try to do something sweeping, you probably won't get anything done. So to me, the focus of the discussion is how do we eliminate that kind of trash or situation from occurring, where we can address it in a more quickly manner than having it sit there for a certain time period till we get to municipal court.
So, a little bit of history for those of you that were not on the board before, but we had, I would say, was it about a year ago, Jack? We did the revision, the policy revision?
April 2nd
Of this year?
of 15 is when courtesy
Okay.
notices came into play.
So April 2nd of 2015, we were directed by the board and the mayor at that time to review our property and code compliance process and basically create a policy, because at that time, we were getting a lot of complaints about our code compliance was not having a lot of personal contact. We were sending out notice of violations without reaching out to people, trying to make contact with people, and the board and the mayor were receiving some complaints. And so we did that in April of 2015. That's been in place this entire year. And it's actually, honestly, I think it's brought a generally higher compliance rate up, but it also creates more time between the violation of trash being out there and, an irresponsible property owner or irresponsible tenant, because now we have this courtesy notice that goes out, which is, part of that is also a try to attempt to make a personal contact, either a phone call or in-person contact, to try to make the process a little bit more friendly, because someone would get a notice of violation, they get really upset and say, well, you're not even giving me a chance, or I'm going through a financial situation, so we can interact with the citizen more. And so we think generally the process has actually brought compliance up across the board, because we have less complaints, we've received less issues. Most of them, I would say the last 4 court dates, 99% of the properties are in compliance by the time they come to court, and that's a credit to Jack and his department. That being said, it is for the person that is not someone who is concerned about their property, they have more time now. It's added the additional days that you're talking about, Gary, because there's a temp for personal contacts now and the courtesy notices. So Terry and I talked about, and Jack and I talked about this before, I think what we can do, if you guys can identify, and I think, Gary, you kind of did that by saying it's the trash on people's property, the truly trash, that's not yard art or something like that, but when people are leaving trash on their property, and really what you want us to do to maybe eliminate some of this time frame, the courtesy notice, how we wait to give a summons, because, one of the things that happens every time we do code compliance is if we clamp down on somebody, then they're going to say, drive around the city and they're going to say, there's 40 other people that have the exact same situation we're going on. So by doing this policy, it's a uniform enforcement. Everybody's treated the same. If you question how we're doing it, we can say, here's the policy, and this is how we deal with everybody. So I think if you can help us identify the specific code issues or property issues, we can take those and extract them from this broad policy and create maybe a different policy for trash on property. Because that one, it shouldn't take 60 days to clean up a mattress or clean up a couch or something.
Well, we all get complaints about grass, And to me, that's not as overriding an issue as trash sitting on property. So if we're gonna pull out specific violations that we want to address, that to me would be the number one priority is trash sitting on property. It clearly doesn't belong because it can't be picked up by the trash company and, you know, and that. So that would be the one that would be my highest priority. And I don't know if other people have other things that are high priorities, but that personally is mine because it's really offensive to see bags and bags and cans of trash that people have gone through, animals have ripped apart, it's blowing all over the neighborhood. That's, to me, the number one priority I have. So I don't know where the rest of you guys are at.
And I think that's the thing, you know, the tenants, they put all that trash out there thinking that the trash company's gonna pick it up. Well, you know, it took the trash company, I think, 2 weeks to pick up just the bags and stuff, and there were still couches and mattresses and stuff left in there. So, yeah, there's gotta be some way to communicate that the trash company isn't gonna pick up certain items, you know, I mean.
Well, typically, my experience is, you know, typically, our process changed for the citizen that wants to work with the city to get their property in compliance, works much better now. But for the landlord that may be somewhat absentee, or the tenant that, you know, is moving out and, you know, doesn't care, it does create an issue. But, you know, like I said, we want to have uniform standards. But I do think if we can just maybe deal with trash, pull that out, see if we can shorten the process. Because remember, with trash, one of the things we can do is we can go and abate, and we've done this before. We've gone and cleaned up properties and put liens on their property, which we're allowed to do. So even shortening the process may give us, you know, also the ability and a quicker turnaround where if they don't get it done, we can do it and go clean up some of these properties that are really problematic, where there's the couch that's on there for, you know, 60, 90 days.
Well, how is it that other communities do it? Because, you know, I lived in Florissant for a lot of years, my mother lived in Florissant, and they've stabilized those communities that they've grown over time. And if you had trash sitting out in your yard, I guarantee you it would be gone the next day. Whether this, I don't know if the city picks it up or the property owner has such a big penalty on them, but for somehow they've been able to implement something in ordinance that's really stabilized the community. And I think that's all we're trying to do. We're not trying to copy St. Louis and be like St. Louis, but we're trying to stabilize areas that need stabilizing. So how did they do that?
Well, and then that gets into a whole nother debate, because the state legislature, in their infinite wisdom, just reduced the ability to enforce code violations for municipalities, cut the fine significantly, you know, changed some of the notice mechanisms, and it's not substantial, but the city of Kansas City was fighting them because, you know, the reality of it is, Alderman Ock, is that it's one of those things that, you know, you could go to neighborhoods in Florissant and it wouldn't be that way, and you could go to neighborhoods in Florissant where, you know, there gets into a whole bunch of different factors, you know, that we can't regulate, owner occupied, you know, rental property, whatnot. I don't know that there is, our ordinance is the same because we all have the same authority under state statute. I think a lot of it is dedication of resources to have additional code officers talking to people, interacting with people, and putting time in. I think that's the difference. I think that's one of the reasons, and I know it's ironic when we're having a discussion on trash in different residents to say our compliance is actually up, but Jack, you'd agree with me that our compliance is much significantly higher and much less ticketing and all this other stuff. So I don't know that there's a perfect system. I don't know that their system is any better because they've taken so much heat that the state legislature changed it. I think we've got a pretty good system that's improved markedly from where we were before. And I'd like to try to take a stab at, you know, kind of taking our system and working within it and pulling these out and shortening these notices, and really trying to push that agenda a little bit. Florissant's a charter city, and that's where it gets even more difficult because they have powers that we don't have, because they can write legislation, they can have different fees, they can have different fines, different enforcement criteria. You know, for a fourth-class city, I think we're doing pretty well, but I think we can look at the trash issue and really try to shorten that time. I think it's all about time is, really putting it,
That's where we need to go, is try to shorten that time frame and see if that helps.
And I think
enforce
ultimately, we can clean it up, if we have to abate it because it's a nuisance and nobody's doing anything. We've done that before,
So if
If I
I'm hearing
understood-
everyone right, the residents, the actual residents, we're making quite a bit of progress. Everybody's cooperating with friendly notices. But but the tendency is landlords is where someone's gonna move out. And is there in place now where we get notified that the water's gonna be shut off? Or is there any early notice that the city receives that the tenant is leaving? Is there anything such as that? to where
Water
we
shutting
can-
off is not a trigger for somebody to leave a rental unit.
Well,
We've dealt with
that's why
that.
I'm just asking the question, and there is
Yeah.
something that would, I guess, flag it, I guess, if you will, that tenant's leaving. So, and if we know as citizens that, and as city officials, that tenant's leaving, send them a letter, you have to have your trash cleaned up, do the right thing, do the nice thing. And if they don't, we obviously send it to the landlord.
Like the one on
That there's
McKinley.
gonna be a fee for picking up the trash if it's not done.
The one on McKinley, John, I think the cue was, all the stuff was out in the front yard. I don't think there'd have been any advance notice on that one.
Yeah, and the answer to your question is, in some cases, they actually will come in and discontinue their water if the water is actually in the renter's name. In a lot of cases, the water remains in the property owner's name, so there is no change that would occur. But by far, the majority of the property owners, property renters that have the utilities in their name, we do not hear from them until their final bill is past due and we start trying to take some action.
Okay, well, I was just trying to be, proactive. It sounds like we're making progress on the property owners. It's the ones that are just suddenly moving out and throwing everything out in the, well, I don't know. There's just not a real easy way to combat that. I was just open up for discussion.
I think based on my conversation with Chris today, my understanding is regardless, there's gonna be a 10-day window before we can do, even if we start day one with a notice and a summons, we have to provide the 10-day window. So I think it's important for all of you to understand that short of 10 days, the city cannot do anything to alleviate the problem. But I believe that part of the answer is not providing a courtesy notice in these particular situations and starting from day one with a summons.
And, sometimes, I talk to the lady who lives next to the property in McKinley. She's an elderly lady, has lived there most of her life, and, and so my first question to her was, well, when did you see it? Did you contact anybody? And I think sometimes the residents next door are a little bit hesitant because they don't want to get into a fight with anybody, and so they tend to tolerate that a little bit more than we normally want them to. And I still think this has a lot to do with people who rent, and there's very conscientious landlords, but I think the reality is most of the complaints I get are from, well, this part of the neighborhood looks bad, this looks terrible. It always seems to be rental properties. I mean, we just talked about the one in McKinley, there's one on Steinhagen. Trash has been sitting out there for weeks now. Now the trash is gone, but there's a big sofa setting on the porch, and there's junk still on the porch. It looks horrible. It's a rental property, and the rental property is, I believe, owned by an organization that we would all consider reputable, but they allow this to occur. So it's just frustrating, it really is. So I guess the approach is see if you can shorten this window up, and I mean, you feel better if you can go back to the person who came to you complaining and say, this will be fixed in X 10 days or X number of days, as opposed to saying, well, there's going to be a courtesy notice, and we got to see how it syncs with the municipal court, and then if the court passes, it doesn't give them any hope.
The one variable we control is time. And for a lot of people, time has been helpful, but I think for these situations, I think we can take a stab at reducing that time, that, you know, at least we can be doing something actively and trying to get the property resolved sooner than saying, we gotta wait 21 days or whatever.
Yeah, it's like we'll possibly revisit this again.
I feel, well, let's see what he comes back with.
Well, yeah, and I mean, I think it's a little bit of a trial and error.
Yeah.
See, if it works, then great. We'll get it fixed.
Yep.
Can I make a comment?
You have to
Come on
come
to
to
the
the
podium
podium.
if you wouldn't mind.
I own my property at 1002 Roy, but is there any kind of administrative fee, or do you all know how many rental properties that there are in the city?
It's a great question where you're going. There was a court case out of the city of Jennings, which is a third-class city, but similar to a fourth-class city, where the city of Jennings passed basically a registration requirement for any rental properties, and the court struck that down as beyond the city's power. Because even if we just had a register that we could keep track of these rental properties and require notification of the tenants, it'd be great. But to basically get into a registration
fight.
inspection and that type of stuff, we would have to, and I dare I say this, and I hope nobody takes this, we would have to get into the occupancy process and reoccupancy process for, really the reoccupancy process citywide. And I think that I would rather try to play with the time limit and see if we can maybe shave some of the issues off than, try to get into a reoccupancy inspection debate.
Because we have landlords that don't care what their property looks like. You're fighting an uphill battle. If you don't have some kind of, you collect some kind of fee, and if they want to rent their building, you're going to either not have their fee or they're going to lose it, and if you don't pay it, you're not renting it.
And then there was cities in North St. Louis County that tried to do that about 6 or 7 years ago, and the court said, you don't have that power, a specific power to require. It was basically a landlord license within the city.
Can you condemn the building?
You can condemn the building. I would not want to condemn a building just for trash.
You have to have other issues.
More than likely, there's going to be other issues that could justify that.
And I agree with you. The issue you always get into with condemnation, it's kind of the nuclear option. If you're going down the road of condemnation or dangerous building, you better be willing and able to get in there and fix the problem or make the property safe. And I think that's always a consideration for the city, is what is too much, because if we were going around and condemning people for trash, I think people would be lined up at the door to complain and say, well, I just had trash, and now you say I can't live there and whatnot.
But when water is shut off in a building out here, does that automatically, with having no sewer, does that condemn the building?
It makes the building unlivable, yes.
Yeah. That's all my comment.
All right, appreciate it. Any further comments or questions?
Could I add one?
Sure.
Since April the 2nd of 15, we've issued 593 courtesy notices. And of the 593, only 141 became notices of violations. So 76.25% of the people have responded in the first 7 to 10 days.
Nice.
So I think that part of it is working. Trash, unlicensed vehicles, and weeds is always the top 3 of our property maintenance issues year-round. If we want to say so we're fair to everybody, and that's my goal, that no one can say I play favorites. If we want to say we will just no longer issue courtesy notices for trash violations and they start with an NOV, I think that would be fair across the board to everybody. Well, we would still make contact or do our best to make contact with the people and just let them know, because of the problems we've ran into, that's why we've taken this step. And if somebody contacts us and they're not just BSing us and they really are trying to resolve the issue, we always work with them. So I think that, if you guys agree, that might be a step where at least we're consistent. That's my problem with, well, does that couch count or that one don't? I don't want to get in the middle of that myself.
And that's a good point. Yeah, I think it.
Because your crisis might not be the other guy's crisis.
Picking on one or the other. Everybody's equal.
So are you suggesting instead of shortening the time,
You just do.
as it relates to
on
trash,
everything.
we just don't
Just
give
skip the
courtesy?
courtesy notice completely for trash.
Don't give them any time.
Just start with an NOV,
On trash.
and they got 10 days, because that's the legal limit, right, Chris? They gotta have at least 10 days prior to a
10
hearing.
days, yep.
If it's gonna be abated, and then it's the same for everybody,
Let's do it.
So 10-day, and then you're just saying summons.
and they get the summons.
I'll make a motion that we
Well,
start.
well, hang
I
on.
think we need to work on a
Yeah, we need to work
policy
on that
and bring it
before we
back
can do a
next
motion.
You
meeting
can't do a motion like that.
To make
This is
sure
just
that
a
we have
discussion.
everything checked on and done before we make a final decision.
But when you get ready to make your motion, I'll second it.
I knew most of you would jump on it, but let's give
Yeah,
them a
I'll
little
vote
time to
yes.
draw something up and be able to adjust what we need to adjust. Any further discussions on that? All right. Move on to, and thank you for all your input. Let's move on to the approval of the redevelopment plan request for proposal.
One of the next steps in our redevelopment process is to hire a planner. The state statute that regulates the TIF laws requires that prior to the implementation of the TIF that there be a planner involved. The planner will complete all of the statutory requirements, which includes the preparation of a redevelopment plan. Part of that is the blight study. The area has to be determined to be blighted in order for TIF to be an appropriate use in the area. A relocation plan, a cost-benefit analysis needs to be prepared as well. That will then go to the TIF commission and then come for approval to the board once the plan is issued and has been reviewed. We sent out requests for proposals to a list of 5 qualified planners out of the St. Louis area. Got their names from our consultants who are helping us with this project. And of those 5, we received proposals from 2. One of them is Development Dynamics. Their proposal fits within the criteria of what was required by the RFP. Their overall not to exceed amount proposed is $20,000. The cost for the plan is borne by the property owners that are part of the development agreement. It was agreed to in the previously approved development agreement. But Development Dynamics presented $20,000 as a not to exceed total. A note that you all need to be aware of is that Development Dynamics is a subsidiary of the Armstrong Teasdale Company, who is the attorney group that is dealing with one of the developers in the proposed TIF area. So just for you to be aware of that before you make your decision. The other proposal presented was from PGAV. If you remember, PGAV was the company who worked on the feasibility study that we hired them to complete for the interchange area before we really restarted this project. Their proposed flat fee is $30,000 for completion of the required plan. Those were the 2 proposals that we received for planners for this project.
What does it mean when it says 30,000 plus? It's kind of confusing if it's a flat fee, how does the plus work into it?
I believe, Gary, that the plus is talking about reimbursable expenses.
Oh, okay.
Because they talked about, and now, in all of them, one of the things that we asked for was, how did you determine your rate? What were the hourly rates that you used to come up with the flat fee? So that's why the hourly rates are provided. But I believe for the PGAV proposal, what they're addressing plus is the $10,000 reimbursable expenses.
Okay, so it's solely for that.
Yes, that's not
Okay.
included.
If I remember when, in dealing with PGAV, we had a couple meetings with them and everything, and we asked them to do some things on after the first meeting, and the second meeting they came back and we wasn't sure they'd really done it. done their homework on it. Do you have a preference, or, I think we talked, and I don't know, there was some, I know I was not really overly taken with PGAV on the way they handled our feasibility study.
I don't know that I can actually answer your specific question. What I can tell you is that Andy Struckhoff is the principal that PGA has named to work on this project, and he was the individual that you're speaking about that came and presented to the board.
Yeah, I can honestly say I was less than impressed with them. I was very disappointed in their, I'm just gonna say it flat out, I don't think there's any way to beat around the bush on it. Not impressed by their presentation at all, I was not impressed by their finished product that they gave us. And I know there's probably at least one other board member who probably wasn't very impressed either, because she voiced her concerns during the meetings.
Well, I mean, I think the final product was okay. Getting there was not an impressive way to do. How it was presented was not impressive. And I think we were kind of led down the road when we first interviewed them that we were going to be dealing with somebody higher up in the organization, and as it turned out, we weren't dealing with the person they said they were. I think the data they ended up giving us was valid for us to make decisions on, but the process was not acceptable. The commitment from the owner and then passing it off was not acceptable. And so I have a lot of those similar feelings about that, and I would probably feel more comfortable with going with the development dynamics.
And I think it's fair to say too, Alderman Rock, I agree. The numbers they gave us and the information they gave us was something that we could deal with, but yeah, you're right, the road was very rough.
Yeah.
I agree.
Well, I distinctly remember we talking to him after the one. I thought we brought up to him we wanted to expand our footprint west, and it didn't seem like they went as far west as we requested. That was one of the issues I think I had. I know that the numbers at the end were good enough, I think, to sell the project, but like you say, I was just a little disappointed in the way we got there. So.
And before we got, you just said a word that I think scares a lot of people. Part of this product is blighting an area. I think the public who's listening to this knows we're not talking about going into somebody's home or somebody's area that is not part of this project and blighting parts of town. The developer in the center and those to the west who have been part of this process have an understanding of that property is going to have to be blighted as part of this process. We're not stepping over and going into the areas of the community that belong to somebody else. Somebody's not going to get a knock on the door saying, guess what, your property is blighted. This is specifically for the developers who've been working through this process, who have an understanding, and that's just part of what we have to do to make this work.
I think most of the residents would agree that the outlet center part of it is blighted area.
Yeah. No, but I did agree with Gary that you bring up a good point, because that would be the next thing that would come. And we've experienced that through this process for the proposition of proposal of Proposition L and Proposition P. And I thank you for bringing that up.
Yeah.
All right.
Have we done anything with development dynamics in the past or anything? Do we have a history or anything?
We do not as a city. I did ask Shannon Creighton from Gilmore Bell just for her thoughts, because this is what they do. They work with all of these different firms all the time. Her response was that she's worked with both Development Dynamics and Armstrong Teasdale for a long time. She's never had any concern. She suggested that the city should be aware that there was this ownership of both Armstrong Teasdale and Development Dynamics. She didn't see an issue with that, but said that both of these firms are well respected, that both of them have served well in projects, and really did not have anything to say that one was much improved over the other.
So there's not an issue of conflict of interest with Development Dynamics and Armstrong Teasdale being involved? There wouldn't be anything?
She did not say there's a conflict of interest, other than just you as a board in making your decision need to be aware that it is a subsidiary, but that she had never experienced a problem related to that.
Chris,
But-
do you see any issue with that?
Well, I mean, Armstrong Teasdale is one of the most reputable law firms in the state of Missouri. I mean, they're, you know, the guys they have working on this project are the pioneers of it.
Do you see any conflict?
I think, there's no legal conflict. I think it's a question of, you know, the question that will come up in review of the study, you know, you're gonna have to answer that question. It's not legally, they wouldn't have bid for the work if it was a legal conflict. It's a subsidiary, it's obviously done by somebody else, but it's a subsidiary wholly owned by Armstrong Teasdale. So, you know, I just think you guys have to be aware, because if you choose them, they're probably a great company that's got great reviews. People may ask that question, and you have to answer the question, you know, was it a legal conflict, you know, and, you know, the obvious, they work, you know, they're owned by Armstrong Teasdale. If you don't choose them and you choose the other one, that's kind of your decision.
But isn't the, what we're talking about here isn't the conflict between Dynamics and Armstrong Teasdale, it's Armstrong Teasdale has a relationship with one of the developers.
Right.
So the question the public would ask is, by selecting them, does that put the city and the taxpayers at a disadvantage as a part of this process if they are the ones selected, since they already have this development? Now, you can also argue on the other side, it probably makes it more efficient because they're familiar with each other. But I think that would be the issue that somebody may raise from the public is, hey, wait a minute, you know, you chose to go with a firm related to one of the developers, and how is that in the best interest of the city? And that's what you'd have to defend.
Right.
Well, and I guess I could see
One's
the,
$10,000 cheaper than the other.
Well,
but
that's
the
the
other
other
point
side.
that I think that can be brought up is a reputable company such as Develop Dynamics and a reputable company such as our law firms such as Armstrong Teasdale, will they really put their reputation on the line for this?
I'm
'Cause
sure
you're
they've
talking a
probably done
huge
this,
reputation.
assuming this, but I'm sure that this is probably something they've done with that relationship in the past, and they disclosed that it's a wholly owned subsidiary, and I don't imagine that in dealing with, you know, that law firm, that they're not gonna disclose any additional issues if there was a true conflict that came up, but like I said, Shannon did not mention any issue with the conflict, except just pointing it out, and it's just a point for your consideration and how you guys want to deem it. I don't think it will be an issue. If there's an issue that arises, I think we'll be able to address it, and I think they'll be very, very forthright about it, but ultimately it's your decision on.
So what does the firm do? They assess to see if the area is blighted, which I think, like you said before, Mike, I think we can all probably come up with that assessment pretty easily. What other function are they doing?
It's a fairly lengthy
Well, like an executive summary. you can-
amount of information that they have to prepare. What was specifically spelled out is there has to be a redevelopment plan. I can't sit here and say I'm really sure what a redevelopment plan looks like and what the state statute requires, but my understanding is that it's an entire plan that shows here's what will potentially happen if there is no TIF in place, so what potential future development could be there or could not be there, versus the other side, if the TIF is in place, what can you expect to happen? What is the cost-benefit analysis? What kind of revenues can you expect to be generated? What kind of development can you expect? And then part of that is this blight study, which there are certain parameters that have to be used to gain that, and then a relocation plan. I'm not sure what a relocation plan is in this case, and maybe the answer is you have to say that there is no relocation necessary because there are no homes.
Right.
I'm just assuming that, I don't know the specifics. So it is all of that documentation and detail that is required to meet the state statutes to create the TIF.
And I would think part of this we've already agreed to, because we have development agreements with the developers who kind of outlined what their vision is if this were to happen. And so it's not like
But
we
I
have no
think,
clue, and they're going to come and give us information that we don't already have.
I think this is different
Okay.
in that it takes the specific developer out of it
Okay.
and does it from a blanket professional opinion of what will happen in this area with development and the use of TIF as an incentive versus what will happen without it. And I don't think it considers who the developers are, because that's a whole nother process we haven't got to yet.
Okay.
The agreement that we have with these property owners and potential developers establishes a relationship between the city and those individuals, but it does not affect the TIF and the statute requirements to create that situation. It has no bearing on that.
Okay. Nice.
What is the concern of the board about this, being in contract with this company? What would you not want to do?
Well, I think that's what we're trying to hash out.
We're trying to discuss which
Yeah.
company to go with on the
Yeah,
reasons.
I mean, to me, you got several issues. You got one is that clearly Dynamics is a significantly lower bid. Then the other one, we weren't happy with the other one. Clearly, the other three companies that bid of the five weren't in consideration because they didn't hit, I guess, minimum requirements of the bid, I'm guessing. And, I mean, from what you're saying, it sounds like to me, this is gonna be a third-party objective look at what happens, what doesn't. So if they come back and say, well, this is, if this happens, this is what can happen, it's either gonna help confirm what the agreement we have, or it's certainly going to give us a different benchmark perspective to look at.
Exactly.
And so then you're trusting, it's kind of like trusting an appraiser in some way. You're trusting this firm that they're going to be objective and they're going to give us their perspective on this aside from any other issues. And I think that's what you want. And I have a hard time believing that the relationship between a developer and this is going to influence their perspective. I mean, I've worked with Armstrong Teasdale. I was, I'm certainly not an expert on it, but I certainly are a reputable firm. So I guess I'm not as at ease about this as I talk through it. I'm just trying to bring up issues that we might want to anticipate. So.
Well, I think there's going to be issues no matter.
Well, yeah, I mean, we're going to be challenged on everything, so.
Let's just kind of poll because we have two positions with no definitive here.
Well, let me make a motion and then we'll see if the motion dies.
We can do that.
Make a motion that we enter into the agreement with the Development Dynamics.
Second.
All right, motion made by Alderman Ock, second by Alderman Shell Harvey. Roll call vote, please.
Alderman Schultz?
Yes.
Alderman Shell Harvey?
Yes.
Alderman Ock?
Yes.
Alderman Deloy,
Yes.
Alderman Miller?
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0, one absent.
Okay. The only other thing I have for you tonight is to change the time, as long as it doesn't conflict for any of you, for our 9:13 training meeting. If we could start that meeting at 5:30 rather than 6 p.m., that would be helpful. So if that's okay with everybody, we'll change the start time to 5:30. And then just a reminder for any of you who have not submitted your newsletter information that time is of the essence to get that submitted to us for the newsletter.
Did anybody send it in so far?
I got mine yesterday.
Some of you have done a really good job of getting those in. Some of you, not so much.
Someone was having
Haven't?
the 13th.
What
9:13.
what was that again? Was that the 13th or 14th? I forgot.
It's
13th.
September 13th for the training.
At 5:30. Does anybody have a conflict with that?
No,
5:30
I'm
sounds
just
fine.
marking it down.
Yeah, if you can send out an email notice so I can update my
I can do
colleagues,
that.
please.
That's all I have. Thank you.
All right. Next, we'll hear from Public Works Director Guy Jeevers.
Good evening, Mayor and Board. First item I have is the monthly report. Couple of things. We've changed out 40 meters, 274 high usage calls. Some of our monthly flushing, we flushed over 10,000 feet. We had 2 sewer backup calls. One was a private issue, one was a city issue. And we're doing work on Wolf Road. Repaired some sidewalk on Market Street. The sidewalk and lighting project is supposed to be finished by August 31st. I was notified today that the electrics ran and they're waiting for information for the city to come out and inspect it and I'm waiting for Cochran Engineer to make sure I got the okay, and then they're ready to throw the switch on that. They're doing the crosswalks right now, and they got some other stuff to do, but the lighting is up and it's ready to be turned on. It just needs to be inspected and go. And then the next thing I have is some slides of the lift station and headworks, some of the work being done out there. Can you hear me okay, or do I need to come up there?
No, we can hear you.
Hear you. The first slide there, that's at Water Street Lift Station. They drilled 25 feet deep, 2 feet apart, 400 holes, and that was to keep from blasting and knocking chunks out. And then he came in with a hammer hoe and knocked all that out. Okay. That's the hole that they dug out. That's in solid bedrock. There's 500 cubic yards of rock that was removed from that site. Okay. And that's them pouring the floor of it. And there's 18 tons of rebar in that location there. Okay. And that's the top part. And that's right before they put the lid on it. And that's them pouring the lid. They're on schedule for the lift station and the headworks. The next one I have would be the wastewater treatment plant. That's them getting what little dirt there was removed. Okay. Right about there, they got in. We started to get into rock. 290 cubic yards of rock that was removed from there. That's 24 feet deep. Okay. There's 80 tons of rebar in that location there. And that's the floor they're getting ready to pour. And there's some more rebar, and it's all in the bottom of the floor. They're pouring the floor there. There's 450 cubic yards of concrete poured there. That's 45 yards, 45 loads of 10-yard trucks. That's the inner structure where the bar screen. That's piping coming into the structure. And there's a channel where the screen is going to go. One channel is for a mechanical screen, and the other one's for a hand screen. So if the one goes down, we'll still be able to catch the screening. And that's just more of the pictures of the structure going up. Right now they're crossing the creek, running a light pipe to the influent at the wastewater plant. So they're crossing the creek now. Any questions on that? Next item I have is for stormwater for Robin Avenue, and I need approval for Cochran Engineering for the price of $25,570, and that's going to give us a stormwater, that's including the stormwater improvement plans and then construction, administration, and inspections of material and testing. So they're going to get everything ready to get it set out for bid. And this has been an ongoing project. We did stormwater assessments on Buckhorn Court, and to see if to find out what the issue is. And the big issue is that that bridge on Robin is too small. They had 3 options to use. We took the third option. One option was just to fill some pipes in there and make it wider. It would have caught debris. The second option was to make it deeper, and and had the channel go through that way. But I was worried of, we start digging deeper, we're gonna hit it in the rock, it's gonna cause more problems. So that we decided to lower it and widen it and open it up the channel that way. What we're gonna have to do is, at the exit of the channel, is flatten it out and do a little adjustment to get the flow to go through. So I need approval for that for Cochran, and then when this is signed and sent back to Cochran, they'll have 90 days to get to that point to get it out for bid.
I know you've been pretty instrumental in this, all in all.
Yeah, the question I had is, I was trying to find in our capital budget list. So did we budget for this to be engineered, bid it out, and actually done within this calendar year, prior to December, or is that dependent on cash flow? Or when did we really think we would have this project done with the widening?
It's on the first part of
Yeah.
first part of the budget, so we're looking at 90 days for that. The budget amount for the project is $141,000.
So the whole project should be done within this year.
This fiscal
cycle,
year.
physically, and it may not necessarily happen before Christmas, but it will happen sometime prior to.
Yes.
This, okay, that's what I was trying to figure out.
Any more questions or comments? Anyone? All right, I'll entertain a motion to approve the Robin Avenue Storm Sewer improvements from Cochran Engineering in the amount of $25,570.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made by Alderman Deloy, second by Alderman Schultz. If I could have a roll call vote, please.
Alderman Shell Harvey?
Yes.
Alderman Ock?
Yes.
Alderman Deloy,
Yes.
Alderman Miller?
Yes.
Alderman Schultz?
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0 with one absent.
I have one question on your reports, and I didn't get a chance to get this to you before, so you don't have to answer it, but if you could. I noticed on the successful high usage calls, it was 555, of which more than half of them were in July. Just kind of looked kind of goofy. That of all the successful high usage calls for I guess the water, and more than half were in 1 month. So I didn't know if something occurred in July that was kind of unusual with the readings, or, you see where I'm at?
I got 274.
Yeah, 274, or, well, maybe it's because it's not on a calendar year, or I don't know how you're doing your totals.
Oh, because you're going from,
Well, I'm reading in January, it's like 47, 44, 44, 32, 23, 91, then all of a sudden it jumps up to 247 in 1 month. And I was just kind of curious as to, was there an issue, or is that just something we need to fix? And you don't have to answer it tonight, I'm just kind of curious about
I
it.
don't know why
Okay.
if it's over 50%, it spits it out for us to,
Yeah, it just,
for high usage.
just seemed like a lot of high usage calls within 1 month. That's my only comment, so.
I think we need to check that.
Yeah,
That
if you can
could
check and
be
get back.
something strange in the formula, or.
Yeah, okay. We had something that wasn't reading right, or maybe people had a lot of high usage, I don't know, in the month of July, so.
May I make one comment?
Make it brief.
Water bill,
Come up to the podium if you would. They gotta be able to see you.
you're talking about water usage?
Yeah,
Consumption
basically,
inside
no,
the home.
basically what it
I
does
like
is,
this
if there's,
typo,
if when
you
they
know,
read meters, if
I
it's
accidentally
over
put in
a certain
numbers.
amount, we typically notify people that they have a high reading.
Yeah, they did that at my house,
Okay.
because mine was double. But I water all my plants, I know exactly where the water went.
Well, that's good. Yeah.
So
So you're probably one of the successful ones.
and they did leave a note on my door that, do I have some leaks in my house and stuff like that. But I know where the water went,
All right, well,
right out of
that's
my
good.
plants.
That's good to know. Okay.
Can I finish my talk, and I won't bother you again? On my street, you're talking about storm water. All the water runs on the surface. And two houses past mine, there is no street gutter. It's pretty well eroded by the water. And they've tried to lay asphalt in there, and it just jetted it out too. And I noticed that a couple weeks ago, they put the end of a couple of driveways down on the end of Roy, they put a little asphalt in the front of those driveways, but it's not gonna stay there. That water coming down there 90 miles an hour. And they're eventually gonna have to re-pour those gutters on the street down Roy.
We can have,
And
take a look at
then
it.
they go around Warren the same way. It's just taking big chunks of asphalt out,
And we can have,
washing them in the creek.
have Guy take a look at it.
I'll stop
No,
talking.
you're right. Guy, would you note that, please?
Got it.
Thank you. Good, Guy, you got one last one?
Looked like, was it struck off? It looks like it struck.
Was it
It's
struck?
taken off.
Right.
I hope not, because I'm not ready for it.
Well, then I guess it's taken off.
Thank you.
Well, thank you, Guy. All right, next is hearing from the Chief of Police, Greg Hottyshow.
Good evening again, Mayor and Board. The first thing I have this evening is our monthly report from July. And Alderman Alk, if you would notice, our numbers are actually a little bit more in line now.
Yeah?
Apparently there was a back-end logic issue at ITI with the way that they were addressing the database. So now I'm a little bit happier with it. It's still a little bit off, and I think some of that is the number of officers that we lost. But I'm a lot happier with these numbers. They seem to be more in line.
What happens when you do comparison, there's something to compare it to?
Exactly. The ride-along program, those 6 participants, most of those were our graduates from the Citizens Police Academy. We graduated 5 new people out of the Citizens Police Academy, and they all seemed to really enjoy, and again, came away with a sense of how professional the police department was. Some of them were surprised on the back end with the knowledge base that our officers have, so.
I think you're underselling that. I attended the graduation, and I'll tell you, I think it was, I appreciate you doing that, but they were very much going to, the way it sounded to me, go out word of mouth and express how much people should sign up for it.
Absolutely.
So once
I hope
again,
that works.
I'll step up to that and say, if you haven't done it, you should.
Yeah, absolutely. Any questions about the monthly reports? Okay. Item number 2 is there's a resolution on later on in reference to the all hazard mitigation plan. That's something that the Boonslick Regional Planning Commission helped moderate and put together. Basically, collaboration from all of the stakeholders and entities countywide came together, got their input. The basic gist of it is, more early warning devices throughout the county and better training for some of the players like myself who will be right in the forefront of an emergency. So that's kind of what the plan is, and as I said, that resolution is on for later to adopt the Warren County All Hazard Mitigation Plan. Any questions about that? Okay. And then I'm requesting to spend a little bit of money. As we talked about at budget time, our taser fleet is completely out of date. And so we're looking to replace those 5 tasers that we have with brand new tasers. This is a sole source provider. We used to get these from Aurora, but now you get them directly from Taser. So that's why there's only one bid, and the total amount on that, I believe, is $6,914.13, and that was budgeted for $7,000.
Any questions?
Well, how often do the officers really use tasers? I mean, I think they're critical because I'd rather somebody pull a taser on you than a gun, I'm assuming, but how often do we?
We probably have about 4 or 5 deployments per year.
Okay.
And the deployment is not necessarily somebody that gets darted either. A lot of times just the display of the device is enough to gain compliance.
Okay.
So that would include one of those as well.
Okay.
Any other questions or comments? All right, I'll entertain a motion to approve the quote from Taser International in the amount of $6,914.13, the sole source.
So moved. Second.
Motion made by Alderman Shelby, seconded by Alderman Miller. If we can roll call vote, please.
Alderman Ock?
Yes.
Alderman Deloy,
Yes.
Alderman Miller?
Yes.
Alderman Schultz?
Yes.
Alderman Shell Harvey?
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0 with 1 absent.
Thank you. And the last thing I have this evening on the agenda is approval to move forward with the conversion of our frequency to a repeater. This is something that we've been working on for a while. It's a huge safety issue. Right now, basically, if an officer is on the north end of town and needs to communicate with an officer on the south end of town, they cannot do so directly. They have to do that through dispatch, and it's just like the telephone game. A lot of times, even in just that one hop, the message does not get delivered correctly. So this repeater basically will make it possible for officers all over town to communicate directly with each other via not only mobile radio, but their handhelds as well. And the reason that there's a single quote for this is because it is a modification to equipment that's already in place at dispatch, and this is their vendor, and this is the only vendor that they'll approve.
Any questions or comments? Before we vote, I will say I think this is very critical, and I appreciate you doing this.
I think it would be a good safety issue for them.
It's a huge safety issue. I agree with you, Alderman Sullivan. I'll go ahead and entertain a motion to approve the quote from Warner Communications in the amount of $3,089.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made by Alderman Miller, seconded by Alderman Shelby. Roll call vote, please.
Alderman Deloy,
Yes.
Alderman Miller?
Yes.
Alderman Schultz?
Yes.
Alderman Shell Harvey?
Yes.
Alderman Ock?
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0 with 1 absent.
Thank you for that. And just a couple of comments. August 27th, Saturday, it's going to be a really busy day. The police department is hosting a car wash at Fastlane Central to support the endeavors of the Warren County Handicap Services to send their clients to state for Special Olympics. So something that apparently hasn't been happening for a while. They needed roughly $1,000 for uniforms and equipment. And so the new director approached us and asked us if we would help them out, which of course we gladly did.
Where's that?
So that will be at Fastlane Central on Saturday, August 27th from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. So please come out and take advantage of a car wash and a good time and support a good cause.
Isn't that's the same date of?
Same date as the Relay for Life. We'll be going in the dunking booth later on in the day.
And when's the dunking booth? That's what.
I think my scheduled time is later in the day. I'm not really sure. I'll have to go back and.
I'll bring it up. We've got it up here.
My time's from 4 to 4:30.
Yeah, and I don't
Where's
know.
this at?
The Relay is at
Blackhawk.
Blackhawk. Yep.
Yeah, I want to go back and reemphasize the purpose of the car wash. For for a number of years, a number of the Special Olympic participants have not been able to participate in the event, who haven't had uniforms. And one of the highlights of Special Olympic is for them to go away, spend a night in Jeff City or whatever the location is. It's very meaningful to the people or the clients who are participating. And this is really a great opportunity for the community to give this base of the population some real support and some real joy in their lives. So it's really critical we get out there with this project and do the car wash and get the community involved.
I agree. To get back to the other one, I know I can speak for myself, not the other two individuals involved in this, but 3:30 to 4 for me and 5 to 5:30 for me.
Is that when I'm going? You're in 2 times?
Yep.
Oh, that's impressive.
3:30?
3:30 to 4 and 5 to 5:30.
You're not supposed to throw it at him, you're supposed to throw it to the although you probably could.
One other plug, again, another Special Olympics fundraiser. I will actually be going over the edge down at the Hyatt Regency downtown on October 29th, rappelling down the side of the building. I'm currently the fundraising leader on this side of the state as it stands, and I intend to keep it that way. However, I would also like to issue a challenge to the mayor and anybody else that would like to join our team and do some fundraising and come down and go over the edge for a great cause. Mayor?
Challenge accepted.
Very good. Thank you, sir.
So then just so everybody understands, the Hyatt Regions is a
It's a 17-story building.
building, and so you're gonna go over the edge of the 17-story building.
That's correct.
To raise money.
To raise money. It's a great cause.
Yep.
All right.
Good for you guys, I'm proud of you.
It's,
They say I'm
it is a
crazy,
great
but I'm
cause.
not
It's-
that crazy.
It's been a highlight event for 5 or 6 years now, I think. So this is the first time we've participated, and the funds are just rolling in, so.
So like we could sponsor you, like, and the theme will be push the chief over the edge?
It's very similar to that, yes.
So if Gary and I give money, you can go down the wall 3 times.
That's, sure. Sure. But donations can be made online. If you do a Google search for Over the Edge and kind of follow that through Special Olympics Missouri, go to the St. Louis event, and then you can search for names or team names in there and put a donation on somebody, help somebody go over the edge. So, that's all I have, and thank you, Mayor.
Thank you.
Appreciate that.
I'll pencil it in. I'm sure my wife will make sure the life insurance policy. Maybe even call me on duty, who knows? All right, I appreciate it. Next, we're to hear from zoning officer and building commissioner Jack Henn.
First item I have is the monthly building and code enforcement report. And as our previous conversations has pointed out, the highest item for July was trash violations with 29. Weeds came in second with 14, and unlicensed vehicles at 13. And for the year, we've had 167 courtesy notices for trash, and only 12 of them turned into NOVs. 113 for courtesy notices for unlicensed vehicles, 10 of them became NOVs, and 76 violations for weeds, and 7 of them became NOVs.
Any questions? All right.
Second item I have is a special event permit approval request. Warren County Fair Association's Pride in Your Ride Truck Show, SEP 21, be held at the Warren County Fairgrounds on August 27th, 2016. Motion for approval passed 7-0 with 1 absent and 1 abstention due to a business conflict and 1 vacancy at the August 4th Planning and Zoning Commission meeting with no additional conditions.
Any questions?
Mr. OMB's here if you have any specific questions for him.
So is this kind of like, come on, this is a way to promote the event, I guess. Since we're here already 2 hours, what's another half hour? So is this for like individuals just to bring their trucks to the event, kind of like a car show? But
Yeah.
a truck show similar?
Right.
And it's just open to the public to go?
Free of charge, just kind of come in, hang out for a little bit and go home.
Okay.
So, I mean, I think the time on it's 10 to 4 is what I've got posted, Jack. So, because like I said, everybody else, they're gonna leave, go home that evening with their trucks and everything. And we got a private party at the fairgrounds that evening.
Okay.
So that way, don't conflict one for the other.
So if they go on August 27th, they get excited about the Fall Fest. They have trucks now, and
There you
the
go.
Fall Fest, they can come and see the cars.
That's right.
All right, sounds good.
Any
We
other
gotta
questions?
promote as much as we can, you know.
Absolutely, that's great. Keep up good work, Paul.
All right, I'll entertain a motion to approve the special event permit for the WCFA Pride in Your Ride Truck Show on SCP 21 on August 27th, 2016.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made by Alderman Miller, seconded by Alderman Ock. If I can have a roll call vote, please.
Alderman Miller?
Yes.
Alderman Schultz?
Yes.
Alderman Shell Harvey?
Yes.
Alderman Ock?
Yes.
Alderman Deloy.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0, 1 absent. Thank you.
Next item I have is a subdivision record plat approval request. Proposed subdivision record plat approval for Sunny Day subdivision, SUBD 56, to be located at 275 Pinckney Street. Property is zoned R2, medium density, single-family residential. Motion for approval passed 8-0 with 1 absent and 1 vacancy at the August 4th, 2016 Planning and Zoning Commission meeting, with the condition to include waiving the submission and our approval of the stormwater management plan at this time. Individual lot stormwater plans will be submitted when they go to apply for their building permits for the 2 vacant lots in the future.
So is there a road that gets into the back lots too? And
There's a private drive back to the existing home.
okay, so that's how, when they break it down, that's how they're going to access those other lots.
Yeah, it's
just on the
part of the
private
plat
road.
there.
Okay, all right.
Any questions or comments?
I'll make a motion to
No, we
approve
don't.
the...
It's a bill.
Oh, that's on the bill,
Agenda.
okay, I'm sorry. Okay. I'm looking for it.
That's all right. Any other questions or comments? All right.
Last item I have is amendment to section 425 sign regulations, ADM 82. It's the proposed text amendment to the existing sign regulations, specifically section 425.145, signs after condemnation. Motion for approval passed 8-0 with 1 absent and 1 vacancy at the August 4th, 2016 Planning and Zoning Commission meeting with no additional conditions. And this is the one that City Attorney Graville explained to you earlier this evening.
Any questions or comments? This will be referred on later on in the ordinance, proposed ordinance. Questions or comments? All right, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Jack.
Next, we'll hear from Maintenance and Grounds Director Brad Boozy, please.
Good evening, Mayor and Board. You have my monthly grounds report. Same thing, just doing a lot of grass cutting. Trying to
like
keep
mowing's up.
so.
I'll bet you next month will be up more.
I don't think it's gonna be any better next month either.
Any questions on the monthly report?
Next, I have the final piece to the Binkley parking lot thing, the curb stops. We have, this was on the Capitol, so that's why I had to come before you all, looking for a Schreider ready mix for 50 curb blocks for a total of $825. Yeah, had the budget amount was $1,900. We had previously were going with post and cable, then talking to the people that walk up there, they were worried about falling over the post and cable, so we went just for a curb block, because before we had the railroad or the telephone poles, so we thought, you know, instead of having to have a accident with somebody falling over, it'd be easier and a lot cheaper going with curb block. So this is what we decided to do.
Do you include the rebar on that too? The rebar is included on that too?
Yes, curb blocks and rebar for the price of $856.96.
Any questions or comments?
No, I think the project looks good.
92.
The widening of the, changing that from.
Yeah, and moving the
rock.
handicap down where it was supposed to be,
Yeah, I
that
think that's a good looking
made a
project. You guys
lot
did a
of
good job
difference
on
there.
it.
Yeah, Darren and his crew did a
Yeah.
outstanding job of getting that done, getting it striped for us, and we'll take care of this and get get those pinned down. So then we'll get those telephone poles hauled off. So
By the way, you know, we talk about the grass mowing and everything and how green, but the parks look beautiful.
Oh, this is our best year for as far as
Green.
grass in the park, especially Binkley, all the seeding
Yeah,
we did.
The grandkids
All of it took
Binkley-
off and really
Binkley
looks
the other
nice.
day, and I mean, it's just, it looks, and the new rock wall and all that, they look really good too,
Yeah,
so.
and all that,
They're
yeah,
in good
the
shape.
grass has been a good year for getting grass started. It's been a booger to keep
Yeah.
it cut though, I'll tell you.
Good job.
Any other
Thank you.
questions or comments? I'll entertain a motion to approve the Binkley parking lot curb stops project in the amount of $856.96.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made by Alderman Schultz, seconded by Alderman Shell Harvey. Roll call vote, please.
Alderman Schultz?
Yes.
Alderman Shell Harvey?
Yes.
Alderman Ock?
Yes.
Alderman Deloy,
Yes.
Alderman Miller?
Yes.
Thank you.
Carries 5-0 with one absent. Thank you. All right, we are at that portion of bills to ordinance. I'll entertain a motion for first reading of bill number 34-16.
Make a motion, the first reading of bill number 34-16, with the exception that the bill be changed to include the rates that were currently in place, I guess they're currently in place and not the increase, and I don't have those numbers, but I think somebody
It's
wrote them down.
.2899 for general revenue, .1716 for parks and recreation.
Second.
Motion made by Alderman Ock with the exception, and seconded by Alderman Shell Harvey with the exception.
An ordinance levying and imposing a tax for the calendar and fiscal year of 2016 for general, municipal, and public park purposes.
Entertain a motion for second reading and passage of bill number 34-16.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made by Alderman Deloy, seconded by Alderman Miller.
An ordinance levying and imposing a tax for the calendar and fiscal year of 2016 for general, municipal, and public park purposes.
Roll call vote.
Alderman Shell Harvey?
Yes.
Alderman Ock?
Yes.
Alderman Deloy,
Yes.
Alderman Miller?
Yes.
Alderman Schultz?
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0 with one absent. Bill, please. I'll entertain a motion for first reading of bill number 35-16.
Make a motion for the first reading
So
of
moved.
bill number 35-16.
Second.
Motion made by Alderman Shell Harvey, seconded by Alderman Miller.
An ordinance amending section 425.145 of the municipal code relating to the relocation of signs after condemnation.
Entertain a motion for the second reading and passage of bill number 35-16.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made by Alderman Deloy, seconded by Alderman Schultz.
An ordinance amending section 425.145 of the municipal code relating to the relocation of signs after condemnation.
Roll call vote, please.
Alderman Ock?
Yes.
Alderman Deloy,
Yes.
Alderman Miller?
Yes.
Alderman Schultz?
Yes.
Alderman Shell Harvey?
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0 with one absent. I'll entertain a motion for the first reading of bill number 36-16.
Call for first reading of bill number 36-16.
So moved. Second.
Motion made by Alderman Shell Harvey, seconded by Alderman Miller.
An ordinance accepting plat of the subdivision known as Sunny Day subdivision by the city of Warrenton, Missouri.
I'll entertain a motion for the second reading and passage of bill number 36-16.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made by Alderman Deloy, seconded by Alderman Schultz.
An ordinance accepting plat of the subdivision known as Sunny Day subdivision by the city of Warrenton, Missouri.
Roll call vote, please.
Alderman Deloy,
Yes.
Alderman Miller?
Yes.
Alderman Schultz?
Yes.
Alderman Shell Harvey?
Yes.
Alderman Ock?
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0 with one absent. I'll entertain a motion for the reading and passage of resolution number 318.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made by Alderman Ock, seconded by Alderman Shell Harvey.
A resolution of the city of Warrenton, Missouri adopting the Warren County All-Hazard Mitigation Plan updated 2016.
Roll call vote.
Alderman Miller?
Yes.
Alderman Schultz?
Yes.
Alderman Shell Harvey?
Yes.
Alderman Ock?
Yes.
Alderman Deloy,
Yes.
Resolution passes 5-0 with one absent. I'll entertain a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made by Alderman Shell Harvey, seconded by Alderman Miller. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
That is the majority. We are so adjourned.